No,
what
you
if
know
we were a
what?
VTuber? No.
I'm good. I'm good if
Okay.
we leave the VTubers on the cutting room floor forever, because that was frightening. Caitie had me Google a thing, and it's, you know what? We're good.
So, the real cold open is, you know, Michael and I had a little date night. Had some family visit us to babysit the kiddo, so we took the chance to visit a store that had opened up near us, and Michael really wanted to go, and I guess the long story short is during the pandemic, somehow Michael found a Warhammer 40K,
Okay.
and
That's a heck of a hobby.
Yeah, and like he thinks the game looks boring as hell, but he loves little crafty stuff. So he just fell in love with the idea of painting miniatures. And so like a store opened up by us that like had a bunch of like crap, 40K crap. And we went inside and the guy was like super friendly. And he walks over to us and he's like, "Oh, what you in here for?" You know, Michael does his, you know, thing like, "Oh, I just, you know, was looking at it. I thought I just kind of wanted to look at the bottles." And then he goes, "Oh, do you want to paint a model for free?" We're like, "What?" "Yeah, we're having a promotion to do whatever." So here we are for our date for an hour. Michael and I just sat down at this random store and like cutesy pootsy had a friendly competition to paint these little models.
Oh, fun.
Of 40K, and it was the most nerdy fucking day we've ever had. We were having a good time.
That's great.
So yeah, now I have this little, I don't even know what it's called. It's like this little, God, I know shit about 40K. It's like, I got like a fantasy one and Michael got like a space marine thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's on my desk now. And Michael got himself a little figure set to paint, and he's been doing that and having a good time. So yeah, long story short, we went to one of the nerdy version of those painting pottery places.
And had a 40K painting date. I love it. I know nothing about 40K either, but I've known like, one or two of my friends have gotten into that, painting the miniatures and everything, and it looks like such a extensive hobby. Like, I can't wrap my head around it personally, but people who get into it get crazy into it, and so I just imagine there's something there that's a ton of fun.
Yeah, Michael's been telling me things, and like he's gotten kind of into the lore a little bit. He really likes the someone who knows 40Ks, this is gonna make sense for, but the Adeptus Mechanicus guys, Michael said it was like if the Jawas went to Mars and worshipped toasters, which I'm like, what the fuck is this game?
What kind of lore is this?
I don't know. And then he says like, "Oh yeah, and the elves are okay." So Michael hates elves. I don't know why, but Michael said that the elves are demons. That like it's basically Pinhead, like that whole like sexual demon worship. That's torture. And I'm like, Michael, what the fuck?
Segue into today's episode where we're talking about soulless romance. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, are we talking about? Yeah, I don't know how you're going to segue this.
No. So Michael's in a 40K now. Are you concerned, or are you like? It sounds like you're pretty supportive.
Well, I am supportive because I probably haven't seen what the price tag is. Like, I was looking at the price of some of those miniatures because there was this one I know Michael kind of liked, so I picked it up and was like, "Oh, maybe we'll get this too." And it was like, for I guess reference, like the packaging was smaller than my phone. And I don't really have a big phone either. I'm like, "Oh, how much is it? $35. Holy fuck!"
Yeah.
They're a couple $100. Some of these bigger ones. I'm like, "Oh boy. Well, we haven't spent that much money yet, but in the future, maybe I'll cry. We'll see how this goes."
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I guess I'm supportive until I see the price tag.
Could be worse. You could be buying Star Citizen spaceships, right? I mean, if there's worse things out there.
That is true. That is true. Now that's what you're doing. How's your girlfriend handling these?
Look, you know, I'm at a point with Star Citizen, right, where first of all, I fucking love the game. I always come back to it. I play it a ton. The amount that I've spent on it is about what I would spend on a normal game plus some DLC, right? And so that's you can earn all the ships in game. You don't have to pay any money to get a ship. But you have to grind for it. You have to earn the money in game, and then and if they ever need to do like an economy reset or whatever, in-game purchases are probably going to get wiped versus pledge stuff that you paid real money for. Obviously, they're not going to take that away. So whatever. It's like you don't have to spend any real money on ships, And I'm kind of proud of the fact that I haven't spent lots of money on the ships. But every now and then, if things are going well and I have the money to spend and I'm going to spend it on something else that I don't need, I'm just like, I could buy a fancy ship, And I'm just like, it's really not a matter of like, oh, I can't get it. It's more just a matter of like, on principle, do I want to? Anyway, that being said, Star Citizen is in open development. They have an alpha out, and that's a way to release games. But should people release games like that?
I thought it was just going to end there. Should people release games? Should people release games?
Ever?
Ever?
No, we should just go.
Is it morally just?
Go back to reading books, I say. No, I don't know how that does as far as segues, but I guess kind of what we were going to talk about today was the topic of transparency. Not with Star Citizen per se, but more, what is that topic like for Bioware, right? Bioware tends to have, I guess, a traditional, if you want to say that, description of releasing games where you don't hear about it except in very small bits and pieces until maybe 3 months before the game's coming out, maybe a month before the game comes out, and then all of a sudden it's the PR push, right? Get all the info out there, make people hype for the game, do the behind the scenes, the big chunks of gameplay, versus something like what maybe Larian has been doing with their last couple of releases, where they actually release a beta, let people play like the first act of the game, and sort of develop kind of out in the open. Maybe not quite as much as what Cloud Imperium Games does with Star Citizen, but there's a spectrum there between like traditional release, somewhat open, fully open. I think the way Bethesda released Fallout 4 and the way I assume they're going to release Starfield is pretty interesting, where you hear almost nothing and then 6 months out, it's like, here's a long gameplay demo. This thing is coming out in the fall, kind of a thing.
Yeah. And then also, like, let's talk about the history of like what BioWare's done, because I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I guess like I've heard some people where this is actually surprising to them, but the first time I played a Dragon Age game was 2015. It was actually like literally January 1st. That's a whole story. 2015. And I popped open Origins and have been hooked ever since. So I was there for the Jaws of Hekon, Descent, and Trespasser DLC releases. But DLC releases isn't quite the same thing as a game. I have read about them and kind of saw what happened a little bit, but I'm not like too, I'm not too knowledgeable about it. And Jordan, you were there. You played them at release, didn't you? Most of these games.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for certainly all of the modern era, I guess you could say, Mass Effect and Dragon Age, but like the older games, KOTOR and all that stuff. I mean, I was looking forward to them, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm super hyped for the release date or anything. I mean, yeah. I think I got KOTOR for Christmas or something,
So what did they do? Was it kind of what they did now, where there's like maybe a trailer a year out and then like 6 months to release, things get hyping up, and like month of release they just don't shut up about it? Is that kind of what they've been doing this entire time, or has it changed over the years?
I think that's generally the case. I don't remember as much for Dragon Age Origins, but I remember Mass Effect, probably the first demo that we saw might have been in 2006. I would say there was at least 18 months out from the release of the game. We had already seen a demo, which I think maybe that was necessary because it was Unreal Engine, and at that point, a dialogue wheel was like, now that's a common thing, but they were sort of showcasing, dialogue interruptions and things like that. And so if I recall correctly, I want to say they were out a little bit more ahead with Mass Effect to showcase the technology, to showcase the fact that it's a new IP, to kind of give people a sense of what it was. And in that respect, I feel like they may have done a little bit more than what they do now, like say what they did for Andromeda.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's always automatically a good thing to just say more transparency is better. I think that if you give gamers a choice, like, would you like these studios to be more quote unquote transparent? that's a nice sounding word. People think, yes, I want to know more about the process of development or the game being worked on. But I don't know if it's always an automatic win, right? Like I don't know if it's always actually going to make anything better than just saying, you know what? We're not telling you anything. You know, why torture yourself, basically, right? You can't play the game. It's not done. When it's ready, it'll be ready. We'll sort of inundate you with information when we know we're locked into our release cycle.
Mm-hmm. I do know that Inquisition had a I do not remember when it came out. Give me like 2 seconds.
Wait, Inquisition?
Yeah,
November
the
2014.
Pre-game demo. Well, no, the pre-game demo that they did for it.
Oh, that's right. They did do one. It's like October. It was very close to it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was June. Okay, GameSpot uploaded their. Oh, hold on. Is this the actual demo I'm thinking of? No, this is. Well, this isn't the one I'm thinking of. It is a pre-game demo. Okay, there was a pre-game demo that GameSpot uploaded at June 11th, 2014. There was another one, though, that's like the one everyone talks about because it was the one that, like, when you look at it, it looks nothing like what we got. Oh, there's a Kotaku. Oh.
Oh.
Okay, yes, okay, I found it. It happened in 2013, November 2013, so a year before it came out. There was like a demo for Dragon Age that came out, and they were like on stage, and that's the one where they went to like Crestwood, and
there's that side quest that's not actually in the end game, right?
Yeah, and like if you actually go to Mark Dar's YouTube channel, Old Game Dev Advice, he reacts to that and talks about how like these were real ideas we had, but this was all smoke and mirrors. Like none of this was like that playable.
Right.
So like kind of talking about where it was, but so that was a year before the game released. So yeah. Which I guess also talking about Dragon Age 2, how on earth would have that even done and out? Like, how would have that even worked? Because that game was started and released in a year. Like, if that had an alpha, that would have been like probably like 6 months in development or something. Like,
yeah, that's a great point.
Maybe it's still in alpha.
it's like Gmail. It stays in beta for 10 years. No, that's a great point. I mean, if you look at a game like Dragon Age 2 and the amount of time they had to complete that, there's no way to even. Everything about Dragon Age 2 to me would just seem non-standard, basically.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm not even quite sure how they would have done it. Really, of all the games that could have done like a Larian-style release, I feel like Origins would have been the best to do that. I don't know why. Yeah, no, I mean, I think, in a lot of ways, I think you're probably right. And yeah, that Mass Effect demo that I was talking about, that was released, it was E3 2006, and then they also did... I can't remember if it was a separate one or a slightly polished version of that one again at X06, which was a Microsoft conference that used to take place. And so, yeah, it was at least about like a year to 18 months ahead of what the actual release date was. And I remember that demo, like it kind of blew people away at the time because it showed, dialogue interruption. It showed the dialogue wheel. It kind of had like that proto version of Shepard, I think before they had the Vanderloo face model. So it's kind of like a different looking Shepard. And it's nothing really like what we ended up getting. But I think what it did was it was a proof of concept. Yeah. And I think Mass Effect needed that as a new IP. And maybe to a certain extent, Inquisition needed it. I don't think it needed it as much because... people would have had an idea of what, it's Dragon Age, right? But because it's a new engine and sort of quote unquote next gen compared to Origins and 2, maybe they felt they needed that, or maybe just EA felt they needed it. I do wonder if because Mark Dar, I think in one of his videos, I'm not don't quote me as this being like 100% correct quote, but it was something like they kind of regretted doing that demo because people were constantly comparing the game to that demo when like that never really was the game. Like that was an idea they had, but then they scrapped it for other reasons. So like, but like there was never a working version of the demo they had. But then people were saying like, oh, too bad the game. Anyway, but like, I do wonder if like, I feel like a lot of knowledge about game dev would be helpful now if like that's even something that could happen. Because at least thinking of Larian, the only current Larian release I played was Divinity Sins 2 or whatever. And what was like the original beta that people played and then what it is now is very, very different. But particularly in the last act, I think is like almost entirely different.
Oh hell yeah.
So like I feel like Dragon Age is too big and Mass Effect is too big to do that because there's people like me that are so sticklers for a very consistent lore, I guess, an experience that like having that much difference in a gameplay would like make people go crazy. I don't know how to describe it. Like I feel like it's AAA games can't do what Larian does. And like games like Minecraft I feel like games like Minecraft, like it's something's different about that. But like an RPG, I don't think a Dragon Age could ever pull that because people want this one story, and if for some reason you change the ending of that story, for Dragon Age fans, they're not going to like that because if they liked the original better, then it's going to cause a whole hullabaloo. You know?
I definitely agree with that, but I mean, Larian they're obviously an RPG developer. Maybe they're just an exception. I don't know. Maybe they can just get away with it for some reason because their fan base expects it from them.
I think people expect it. Like they were doing something really weird with Divinity, and so people were just like, okay, we'll just let this happen. And now that like they set a precedent, they can walk down that path. And I feel like any other established studio is going to have a really hard time doing anything like that.
Well, crowdfunded with Divinity also.
That's true, yeah, and like difference. With that openness, that crowdfunded and that openness, like maybe it's set up that paved the way. So like, if for some reason there was a crowdfunded Dragon Age game, I guess you could do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really don't think. I think especially a AAA developer that tries to pull that shit is gonna get stoned. I don't think it's gonna work. So I as much as I would find it really fascinating to see the behind the scenes of like a Dragon Age game being built, I don't think it's gonna work because I think we saw that happen with Anthem. Anthem was very much in a beta and an alpha when we saw it, and people were crucifying it and people were throwing stones at it. And like Alpha, it had its problems, but like Anthem could have been fixed. Anthem was no worse than No Man's Sky, and see what No Man's Sky is doing now. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think you mentioned something earlier where it would be helpful to know, more about what the process is like from inside a developer's perspective. And I think that's important to bring up because we could speculate a lot about what the publisher likes and why they do vertical slice demos, right? I think at this point, most gamers are familiar with the term vertical slice. It seems like, again, I don't know because I don't do this work, but it seems like based on what developers have said that publishers like a vertical slice, like even internally, it's very helpful to them. And so that maybe has been moved into a space of, what we've traditionally seen at E3, which are, I think, vertical slice demos. And so, we can only speculate so much about what's effective, what works, what helps from the business standpoint. I guess the real question is, do we like it, right? As the people who are the consumers, as the gamers, as the fans of it, do you like seeing something like that seems to be representative of what we can expect, at least the ideas of it? But then the final game's going to be different, right? The Witcher 3 is the same thing. People keep to this day, people reference the E3 Witcher 3, the first gameplay demo that they showed. Cyberpunk, even more famously, is referenced now. Do we like it? And if the choices are, obviously everyone's going to say, well, they should be able to show exactly what the game's going to be like, a year in the future. Well, that's not possible. So.
Yeah.
Between not getting a gameplay demo and getting a gameplay demo that we are going to have to accept is going to look different from the final product, what would you prefer?
I actually don't mind, because like this sort of also happened with the Anthem demo. There was an Anthem demo that appeared at E3, and then like for some reason when it was released, people were really upset that you couldn't get the specific gun that was in the demo. Like, who the fuck cares? Like,
Sure.
guys, come on.
All right, yeah.
So I don't personally care. Like, as long as you give me like the gist, and the gist is around the same area of where the game actually is, I'm gonna be happy. But then you get people that like call false advertising and say whatever, and like I think if this was like the 90s and there wasn't like as much of an amount of media as people make over games, then yeah, having one demo that airs on TV and it's very, very different than the game you actually buy, that's not very, like, I can see people being really upset about that. These days, if you air a demo on YouTube or stream it, like, and then 6 months before release, and then when it releases, like, you have like actual gameplay footage, you have people on Twitch going, I just bought the game and it released an hour ago, let's go, and like you can see the gameplay. Like, I think like that's almost on the buyer, like unless it's an IP that's tried and true. Like, I will buy an Animal Crossing game as long as it doesn't have Amiibo Parade on it, like, without even looking at what it is I'm gonna like it. Same thing with Dragon Age.
Yeah.
But, like, other than that, like, I'm gonna see, like, okay, this game, what is it about? Let me look at it. Like, I'm gonna do some research. So I feel like anyone that, like, sees a demo and then blindly buys it from an IP they don't know anything about, I feel like that's kind of on you, buddy. That I guess people get really upset over it, and I feel like maybe that's something game developers think of, but I think like from the perspective of the fans, I guess, or the players, I find it really weird when people get really upset when game demos aren't the same as the release game. You know?
Yeah, I do. I think in some sense, I think that you're really correct, right? Like you said something before about like if you did a trailer or a commercial on TV, I mean, part of that is also just the fact that, well, I guess it's a couple of things. Like, that meant a lot at some point. Like, a television ad meant a lot. If you had a Halo 2 ad, whatever, like during the Super Bowl or Monday Night Football or something like that, that was a big deal, right? Like, to see that air in prime time, you know, it was a point where graphics are starting to get more realistic, so someone who's not, you know, really big into games sees that and just goes, oh, that looks like an action movie. That's cool. I'll buy an Xbox to play that or whatever. That meant a lot. But also, I think a lot of this nitpicking of the trailer is just due to the fact that people can compare it now. Like, you really think about it. It's like if you aired a trailer on TV in the 90s or the early 2000s, how the fuck are people going to compare that to the actual game later on, right? I mean, like, I guess they would have been able to probably look up the same thing online. But if you go back far enough, it's like, how are you going to compare that trailer that aired on television to what the final thing is? It's actually it's a little bit more cumbersome versus now. The day that game comes out, someone's going to have a frame-by-frame analysis of the final product versus the trailer. And every single pixel that's out of place, they're going to be able to tear it apart. And there's views in it, right? If you're a content creator, there's views in it. You're generating ad revenue, all this other stuff. Those Croby Cat comparisons are killer.
Yeah. But like, there is some fun in just ripping something to shreds. Like, I get, like, you have a bad day and you just want to see something fail. Like, what's that stupid quote from Fight Club? Like, I just want to destroy something beautiful or something.
Is that the quote? I don't know.
It's like before he beats up Jared Leto or some shit like that. I don't know.
All right.
Which that movie not ended, but is dated weird thinking about what Jared Leto became. But anyway, but like, I get everyone has bad days, but like, it's almost become, it's like not a fad. It's like an industry now on YouTube of people like with the facepalm icons going like, you would never believe they fucking had the audacity to say a gun was Jabba's breath. I don't know what it was in the demo. And it never was actually available. Like, who the fuck cared about the gun?
Right.
Like, literally who? Why? Tell me why that specific gun just got you off so hard that you were so angry about it.
People with a hard on for this guy. So let me say this. I guess it's devil's advocate. I guess to maybe trying to defend, not defend, but understand where those people are coming from. I think that there's a distinction, and maybe not everybody's on the same page here between the publisher and some gamers. Like a trailer for a movie. Actually, you know what? Not even necessarily a trailer for a movie. Let's just keep it in games. At one point, you could say, if we release this gameplay demo or if we release this trailer for this game, the point of this is not to depict exactly what you're going to get. The point of it is to show you, this is a game about space marines, and this is the character you're going to play as, and he's got cool weapons and cool armor, and if that armor and weapons are not exactly the same, it's okay. It's still going to be cool. It's going to be in space. You're playing this game about this space marine. It's just to give you the concept of it, right? And that's fine as an entertainment product is concerned. But I guess maybe people are nitpicking it because they feel it's a software issue, right? Like, you showed me a piece of software that's going to have this feature. You're going to click on this and this is going to happen. And the final version doesn't have that. So it's not like movies where you can just use this to show me the tone and the feel of it. If you show a gameplay demo, it must be bit for bit, at least as far as like features and functionality are concerned. It should have that. I guess the iffy part of it is where people think that access to certain particular items, like one gun, like loot is a feature, so it gets that specific down to the point where if this gun's not available, people are upset. Me personally, I could never imagine feeling that way, but I guess that's what people are getting at. Geralt's hair has the cloak that was never in The Witcher 3 because the cloak physics or whatever. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I could see something like what No Man's Sky got in trouble for was things like there were just straight up features that they were saying was not actually there, like multiplayer.
Right.
Now that legitimately is not okay, because they're lying, saying like, okay, this is legitimately a feature we have, multiplayer does exist, when in reality, no, multiplayer did not exist.
Right.
That is completely different. Now, if they say like, oh, this is something we're aiming for, and then at release they're like, oh, sorry, we couldn't do that, here's the game anyway, then I think people need to back off. They're like, okay, things just didn't work out. I understand. Maybe you're not interested in it anymore. That's fine. Maybe if multiplayer wasn't there, you're like, oh, I'm fucking out then. Like, that's fine. God bless you. Move on. But like, it's the people that like, when the feature's still there and like a specific thing is gone, that I think that's what bothers me. And I feel like if Dragon Age 4 were to come out in like a beta, and or maybe not a beta, but like they had some sort of showcase. They're like, oh, here's all this stuff we're thinking of. It's going to be really, really cool. And then like they don't do all of that. And then people are going to be like, well, whatever happened to the thing? Like, people aren't going to listen to the answer of, well, it didn't work for these reasons.
Yeah.
Because like even now, like sometimes a story about like a what could have been for Dragon Age Inquisition would come out, and people are like, oh, why didn't it happen? Sure. That would have been so cool. When like the devs were like, no, guys, you don't understand. We tried it and it sucked ass. Like we
yeah.
Like the architect was supposed to be one of the big bads in Here Lies the Abyss, which everyone was like, oh yeah, the architect, I wish he'd come back. And then everyone in the Dragon Age team's like, actually, it didn't work. It kind of sucked, guys. You didn't want that.
Yeah.
Believe me.
Yeah, no, sometimes stuff doesn't work, right? I mean, Mass Effect was going to have all kinds of different stuff as far as planet exploration and like light survival elements, and it was going to be way more procedural and all these other things. And, you know, that was a concept they had. They concepted it out, and they, couldn't get it to work the way they wanted it to.
You mean Andromeda or Mass Effect in general?
Mass Effect 1 and Andromeda. The idea to bring it back in Andromeda came from those initial ideas that got scrapped for Mass Effect 1, which is really, really kind of disheartening, because I kind of feel like that puts a cap on them ever trying it again. Does that make sense? Like, they couldn't get that the procedurally generated planets to work right. And the big push in Andromeda was like, we're going to fulfill the original vision. We're going to try it again. And it seemed like it went even worse.
Wah, wah. Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Like, that shit is hard. There's a reason why Star Citizen's been in development for almost 10 years, because that stuff is hard.
Yeah. And like, on Andromeda, like the original teaser trailer for Andromeda doesn't make any goddamn sense compared to what we actually got. But if you think about their original vision of a procedurally generated, worlds that you explore, suddenly it makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Like, yeah, okay, that would be the trailer for that game that doesn't exist. So like, I don't know. I can see people mourning what could have been, but it's like the legitimate anger. I'm really mostly talking about Anthem because like the amount of shit people were giving that game for just the stupidest things was just. I feel like the word disgusting has been overused, but it was kind of that because it was just people were getting so whiny about it. It's like, guys, calm down. What is wrong with you all? Like Anthem had its problems. We've been over that, but like. Missing a gun and then like certain features, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, overall I don't think Bioware could do what Larian does. And I also feel like stuff like Minecraft and Star Citizen where it's like a what would you even call that? A game where it doesn't really have a story, it's more about your experience.
That's exactly
maybe
it.
Star Citizen has whatever, but like emergent gameplay, that
That's
kind of
right.
thing. Like they can get away with that shit because that's kind of what the game is already. It's basically you have a proto version of the game and they just keep updating it. You know, Minecraft will probably live forever because of that until they add too many features. But yeah, I don't think. I think BioWare is kind of stuck with 6 months out. All right, here's the game. Here's all of our promotion for it. Woo, look at us. We have a Dragon Age 4 coming out. Look how cool this is. And then that's it. I think they're stuck with that.
I think you hit the nail on the head when describing sort of the Anthem fan base reaction and then also what type of game it is, right? So Star Citizen is like an immersive sim, sandbox game, whatever you want to call it, where exactly like you described, the draw is here's all of this feature set that you have. Here's a giant open world, solar system, multiple planets, moons, space stations, whatever. Go mess around and see what you can do with that feature set. You know, you can fly a ship, you can get on FPS missions, you can do ground vehicles, you can do all these different things. And there's multiplayer, like everyone's just thrown in there. What sort of stories emerge from that? And of course, they're adding, you know, quests, missions, like actual quest givers and NPCs that, you know, have acting and everything. But people have been very happy to just say, oh, I can actually fly the ship. There's nowhere to fucking go, but I can fly the ship. Oh, now this feature is being added onto ships. Oh, super cool. We don't even have a reason to use that feature, but now that's there. And then slowly but surely, as they build out their feature set, people are happy that it's starting to feel like a full game. But you can't do that with Dragon Age or Mass Effect, where the gameplay's interesting. I mean, there's some creative things you can do with the feature set, but it's really... here's this narrative, here's this story, and as you're progressing through it in a fairly linear fashion, you know, the combat and the other gameplay is kind of there as a challenge, but it's not really the main draw. Like, getting into those games, like, the main draw is not seeing what you can figure out from a gameplay standpoint. It's seeing how much you care about the characters and what you can figure out from the story choice standpoint.
I am suddenly reminded of Animal Crossing because they have Animal Crossing, for better or worse, is an emergent gameplay game. There really isn't a story. I guess you can. It really, New Horizons kind of had a story to it, where you're supposed to get like KK to your island and blah blah blah. But even that was like nobody gives a shit. It's just a long demo, and they kind of let you go, or not demo. When you start a game, they tell you how to play the game. What is that called?
Tutorial.
Thank you, tutorial. Just the word left me. The storyline in Animal Crossing is just an extended tutorial. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But when New Horizons came out, it was missing a lot of features that was just classic to the game. Right now, like they recently announced the 2.0 that's going to bring a majority of it back, but right now it's still missing a lot of things that have been like these mainstays since the very beginning of the Animal Crossing. And at kind of at the beginning, people thought like, okay, well, it's like one of these games where like here's the bare bones core, and they do updates here and there, and they're going to slowly add things in. And at the very beginning, that's what it does. They had this huge summer update, and things were good. But then I think the pandemic caught up with the Animal Crossing team, and there wasn't a substantial update to the game in almost a year, and people were really piling on Animal Crossing because of that.
Wow.
And it like the Animal Crossing drop. Let me tell you, there's nothing sadder than like people getting really upset over Animal Crossing, because like it's like the most happy, cheerful kids game.
That's what I was gonna say.
And then you have like grown adults and mostly women just sitting there bitching about like, I want all this stuff. I want gyroids. I want Brewster. And I'm sitting like, bro, do you remember Brewster? Brewster did jack shit. Why do you have a boner about Brewster?
Yeah.
We got better shit. Like, believe me, I love Animal Crossing. I'm sitting here surrounded by Animal Crossing stuff. I love it. But and like I wanted more things added to the game, but why are we getting angry? Like, there was a pandemic, guys. Their plan went wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And in a way, I think Animal Crossing did originally intend to do small updates here and there, but maybe it was the fan reaction. I don't know what happened, but they decided just to completely hold up and stop releasing anything. Like the last update to Animal Crossing was, I think it was like February 2021. Like it's been a while. And it was a very minor one to begin with. So, like, they just said, like, all right, fine, we're not going to release anything, and then we're going to dump a whole bunch of shit on you, and then that's going to be it. We're not touching the game again. Like, this is apparently the last update. And this update's a ton of things coming on. So, like, I almost feel like Nintendo tried this slow release of content, realized it sucks, and decided to not do it. And maybe it's pandemic related. I'm not quite sure. I would love to, like, be a fly on the wall and then also understand Japanese, I guess, because I wouldn't be able to understand them even if I was.
I'd like to be able to fly on a wall and have a little Google Translate app, a little mini fly-sized Google Translate.
Translate, pretty much, to like see like what the behind the scenes for Animal Crossing was. So yeah, that's what I would have loved to have. But yeah, so I feel like Animal Crossing, a AAA game, tried it didn't work out. Maybe it was pandemic related, I don't know. And like I would be really surprised if Nintendo ever does that again, because it seemed to explode in their face from the fandom's perspective, because a lot of people are upset. Now that being said, as soon as they had like the big update release, everyone was like crawling back, like, I'm so sorry, Nintendo, I doubted you. Up when Nintendo
That's how it always happens, and it always happens that way, and it lasts for 15 minutes and before people are mad again. At least that's what I'm thinking of in the case of something like Star Citizen, where when the new patch drops, everyone's happy, and then they start to realize that, you know, there are new bugs now. They fixed the old ones, and now there are new bugs, and then people are incensed about that.
Yeah, and I'm sure someone is going to be upset that they never added this furniture series, or the gyroids look different, or there's still NPCs missing. Like, I want Blanca back. Like, how on earth would they ever implement Blanca? Because, hey, Blanca was a character in Animal Crossing that, she originally from like the original GameCube game, and she would just randomly appear at your island or your town, and you would draw on her face, you would give her a silly face, and then if you plugged in your friend's cartridge to your game and they took it home, your little silly face would be in their town. So it's kind of cute. How on earth would that work in a day and age when Blanca would just be dick face?
Oh,
everyone would be getting a dick face Blanca. It just wouldn't work out. Like, Nintendo couldn't... Like, Nintendo still has a big problem with their own, like, database of patterns. Like, I would search... There was a while there I was searching, like, new patterns released to, like, their pattern website in the game. And, like, all the time I'm seeing, like, Nazi flags and wieners. And, like, they would disappear pretty fast. And, like, me being the mom, it's like, no, this isn't inappropriate. I'm going to report it. Because, like, hey, look, it's Animal Crossing. We're not going to do that. But, like, they have it. And if they did anything with Blanca, yeah, guys, there you are. Nazi McDickface running around on your island. Like, it's... it just wouldn't work out. But yeah, like, some things just aren't plausible, or like they just didn't want to do it, you know? So people, I guarantee you, give it like 6 months from now, there's going to be backlash about the new Animal Crossing update, and it's going to be stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So.
it's tough, right? Because it's counterintuitive that more transparency does not always work from the standpoint of consumer satisfaction. Again, I can't speak to whether or not the developer in any way feels like it's good for them. I mean, maybe it's nice to be able to test something with a broader audience than just internal testing or focus groups. Like, I don't know, maybe that is helpful for them. Or maybe it's more pressure, I don't know. But from the consumer standpoint, from the gamer standpoint, I feel like it's one of those things where you slide this button in front of gamers that says transparency on it. Would you like more? And people immediately press that button, and then they go, God, this frustrates me. I'm frustrated. Now we're getting stuff earlier and earlier, and we're sort of peeking behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made, so to speak. But then it's not polished, or you're figuring out that it's still going to be longer, that you have to wait. Like, you just gamers are almost frustrated themselves by demanding to see more and more and more, but for some reason or another, it's not actually satisfying us.
Yeah, I think this is one of those situations where, I don't know if you've heard of that saying, it was some guy who did cars, but like if I asked people what they wanted, they would just say a faster horse.
Henry Ford said that, yeah.
Yeah, that motherfucker. Like, yeah, it's just people don't know what they want. I think seeing how games are made, people don't know what they want. I feel like people play games to, like, you know, have a little bit of escapism in their life from work, school, bad, whatever. And when that experience isn't polished and it's just like for funsies, a lot of people get frustrated about that because they only have so many hours in the day, which is why I have not touched Baldur's Gate 3, because I want to play it, but I don't have time to play this game over and over again, you know?
True.
And there are a lot of people that are frustrated by that. And like there are, I feel like it's mostly like young kids who have the time. Maybe I'm wrong. Like, they're the ones that love it. And then there's the people that like, well, I like transparency, but I don't really have the time to play this game over and over again. So this frustrates me. So I feel like majority of people don't actually want transparency, but the loudest people do. And like they're not the majority. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like, yeah, if I was a game designer, I wouldn't be this transparent because people just bitch and moan and are annoying the entire time. Like,
I think a lot of people don't know what they're asking for, and they don't actually, they don't know what to expect. I think what people think they're going to get is some satiation for their desire to just play the finished game. And it's like the development process is not actually going to go any faster. In fact, it's probably going to feel like it's going slower if you actually see all the piecemeal steps that they're doing. Sometimes it's almost better to just like look the other direction. That's what I'm doing with Baldur's Gate, oddly enough. Like, just keep pretending like it doesn't exist until it's about to be out in a month. And then it'll be easier.
Yeah. And like, even then, you might even want to wait until some of the post-release patches.
Totally right. Totally right.
Like, there were some people that didn't touch Inquisition until after Trespasser, and maybe that was a good move, because Trespasser added a lot of things to the base game. Like, if you played Inquisition after Inquisition was released, and like don't know anything about it, like the tinting your armor didn't happen until Trespasser.
Yep.
That's like that's so necessary now. Do you realize the clown armor we were wearing for
seriously?
A year?
Yeah.
And like if you choose an ability, you can choose between A and B and like the sub ability, but like that wasn't there. That was new.
Yeah, absolutely. They also, you're 100% right. I think it really is a matter of it's cultivating a certain audience for a certain type of game, right? I'm happy to play an open development alpha testing game like Star Citizen because it's a sandbox, because there's a lot of emergent gameplay, because it doesn't have a linear plot. Meanwhile, I could not want to stay further away from experiencing Baldur's Gate 3 like that. One of them I love, the other one I'm like, absolutely. And people forget, too, Star Citizen is two things. It's Persistent Universe, which is basically like their MMO, and then it's Squadron 42, which is a game that has a story and voice acting, and Mark Hamill's in it, and Gary Oldman's in it, and Henry Cavill's in it, and they've got all these big actors or whatever. That's not released at all. That's still being developed behind a curtain, more like a traditional release. And then they've got open development for for their sandbox game, which I think is exactly the right thing to do, because certain games, I don't want to watch 30 minutes of a movie, you know what I mean? Like, and then be like, well, the rest of it's going to be done later. I just don't.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah. Which I do wonder, like, I can't wait, I say sarcastically, because I'm honestly surprised Bioware actually released the behind-the-scenes trailer for Dragon Age 4. Like, that,
the
that
most
was a
recent
thing.
one, yeah.
Yeah, the most recent one. Like, they showed, like, a fair amount of, like, kind of working game demo that let's say there's this one image of like a coming to life Rockman. Like, if that never appears, everyone's gonna be like, excuse me, what the fuck was that?
Right.
And like Spider with hands, like I love Spider with
sure.
hands. What if Spider with hands isn't making it into the game because the little floppy hands are just too weird to work with? I'm going to be sad about that.
So yeah, I mean, if Solus doesn't make that stupid kissy face, somebody's gonna be mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be someone out there who's like, I want that kissy face.
Yeah, no, you're right. There's gonna be someone out there who says, "Oh, it's such a," maybe even as a joke, but sometimes like the jokes they turn into like real, like reality, and people are like, "Oh, but I didn't make the kissy face." They're lying about their animation capabilities. I'm like, okay, hold on, guys, calm down. It wasn't that at all. They were just being stupid. You know, like I don't know.
It's a certain type of audience. It really is a certain type of audience. Like, if you want to be sort of swept off your feet, so to speak, and like caught up in a story and a world and the characters and all that different stuff, avert your eyes kind of a thing. Like, I literally, I have to stop myself and click the, what is it on YouTube? Not interested, if it tries to show me a Baldur's Gate 3 stream or something. Because I know if I even watch the cutscenes and watch the gameplay, I'm going to freaking break down and go on Steam and get early access. Like, I don't even want to look at the goddamn videos. So, like, avert your eyes if that's what your expectation is, versus if you're okay with No Man's Sky figuring out where they're at, or Fallout 76, which I've heard is doing much better, or Star Citizen, or games like that. Okay, fine, jump in, but jump in knowing that you're going to be playing bugs as much as you are playing a game, or you're going to be experiencing the fact that they don't have all the feature set that they should have. Most Bioware things I don't think are fit for that, but sadly, I think Anthem could have been. Like, I think Anthem could have maybe done that.
Maybe, but it was. Obviously, they didn't do it. Someone at EA was like, we're good. But
they were showing those little bits and pieces of like Anthem Next, and like I wonder,
right?
I wonder how that would have gone, because like they eventually set up like their test servers and everything, like public test servers, and like I wonder what would have happened if they would have released Anthem Next in like an alpha state, and like, look, this is not the official reveal of Anthem Next, but like, rather than trying to wow you with getting everything right on a release, we're just going to let you see behind the curtain very early on and correct us as we go. And whether or not that would have, how it would have been received. Not saying I know that would have worked, because I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it's just a thought. It's just, I will forever wonder. We'll never know now, but.
Yeah. I mean, maybe in BioWare 50, remember, because they had that BioWare 25 book, maybe they'll have I don't know, something about Anthem Next, and we will learn more about it. Kind of like they did Jade Modern / Revolver. I don't know if you've heard much about that from that book.
Well, the book and Mark Darrah's, again, we've talked about Mark Darrah's YouTube channel. Like, it's just incredible. Like, he talked about Corsair, which would have been the Mass Effect DS game, and I'm just like, it's incredible. It's fantastic. There's so much information that he is retrospectively sharing.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for when he gets to Dragon Age stuff, because, like, you know, that's what I'm obsessed about, and seeing all the meat and potatoes behind the scenes, which who knows if he's even allowed to, like, say. Because here's the thing, I know there's going to be stories that he's not going to tell, like the real juicy, dramatic stories, and those are the ones I want, but alas, that's not gonna, like, this guy saw my video on the terrible IDW comics, and then made a comment saying, "Oh, if I got drunk at a panel and was able to tell the story," I'm like, you can't just say that and not get me so curious of what happened behind the scenes. That Orson Scott Card wrote for a comic for Dragon Age, and it was awful.
Caitie wants the dirt.
I want the dirt. I know myself. I'm 30 years old now. I know myself. And I am so nosy. I know
She wants to gossip.
I'm nosy, I am gossipy, I'm a terrible person, but it's my truth and I'm living in it and I want to know the juicy behind the scenes.
Oh,
I don't have to
know.
share it. Yeah, Mr. Dara, if you ever listen to this, which please don't, someone said it because he doesn't need to know my opinions, but just email me. I just want to know. I promise I'll never tell a soul. I'm curious. I just want to know. Oh God. Anyway, that's my rant about that. Anyway, I can't really think of anything else to say about this topic. Do you have anything else before we wrap it up?
I mean, I guess just, wrapping it up. Transparency is something that, especially as we get closer, in some sense, we don't even have a release date for Dragon Age 4. But as we get closer, I think that the Bioware community should keep in mind, right? They're going to start to say, we want to see more. They should be showing more. We want more transparency. And you know what? It's almost like sometimes I just feel like you can't win that game. Amazingly, right? Like as I get more into Star Citizen and more into that community, it's like Star Citizen has the most transparency of any video game I think I've ever seen. They release official content 4 times a week. Like there's an hour-long dev Q&A every week.
Whoa, wow, I didn't know that.
Like they pour stuff out. Like we know their roadmap is incredibly detailed. We know everything that's coming out before it comes out. And every week there's somebody on the official forums going, they're still not being transparent enough. So, it's like you can't win that game. And then also I think BioWare fans, we have to know ourselves a little bit, right? Which is that it's actually better if we're surprised, I think. For these games and for the audience that we are, I think it's going to be a lot better if we're surprised. So as we get closer and closer, try and exert some practiced patience and maybe avert your eyes a little bit until the last second.
And here's the problem, though, is that when Dragon Age... Okay, everyone listening to this probably, even now and even in a couple of years in the future probably, and like old fans, we're like... There's the current Dragon Age community, I feel kind of gets this because we've waited a while, we've seen things, maybe we're a little bit more experienced in like the gaming community as a whole. But then there's going to be the people who see the trailer and come in and they're new, and we're going to need like a low sodium Dragon Age. Like there's going to be the weirdos that come in and then get really possessive over a sword they showed in the demo that isn't there,
right.
Yep. And I feel like, what do you do about those people? Can you do anything? Do you just have to sit it out and wait? I don't know. Because I don't want to shut them out, because I'm sure there are plenty of fine people in that group, but like that like Anthem subreddit was basically unusable.
Until we talked about this on an earlier episode. All of a sudden you don't need low sodium Anthem because the regular Anthem subreddit became low sodium.
And even like with Dragon Age subreddit was like really busy, and I wasn't really on it that much like when the game came out, and then a couple months afterwards then I started getting on there, and a lot of people, and like I think like there was like a good group that were really into Dragon Age, and we were there for a while. I kind of stopped using Reddit I'm still sort of on there, whatever, but like I feel like right as the game releases you just have a whole bunch of like people who want to get into the game, but like this isn't their game, and they're very vocal about it, and they're like, can you just leave? Okay, you don't like the game, we got it, can you just get out of here? Like you can go get a refund, goodbye.
There's so many video games, like there's so many. Like why spend any amount of time complaining about a video game on any platform when you could just go play a different video game?
Literally anything.
This is a whole nother topic. Well, we got to close this episode, but it is interesting to me that like the more I think about it, this idea of fandom, it's not for us. Like it doesn't do anything for us. It does something for publishers. Like talking about things you like with your friends does something for you. That's fun. It helps you. But being a part of a fandom, I don't know. I'm starting to think that that's not really for us. Like, it doesn't really benefit the actual fans, which is a weird thing to say, that fandom does not benefit fans.
I think I think there's a couple different levels of fandom. Again, this is a whole other topic. But yeah, all right. Well, let's end it there. Jordan, where can the people find you?
They can find me on YouTube at The Exalted March. I don't know, occasionally on Twitter, just so I can throw some shit at people. Not really throw shit at people, but just I tuned in a little bit yesterday. I tweeted something about Baldur's Gate 2 being on sale. It wasn't too bad. Anyway, at The Exalted March on YouTube, at The Exalted March on Twitter. Caitie, where can the folks find you?
Ghildirthalen on YouTube and Twitter. And then Gillanon on Reddit, I guess. I check the messages sometimes. I never respond. I'm sorry. I get overwhelmed. I don't know what to say because people send me like 10 pages of words and I get overwhelmed. Anyway, with that, Dress Strong.